I want to before I begin the actual video, I wanted to punch in with something. In the course of my epic rant, I described Louis Armstrong as being the writer of "What a Wonderful World." In fact, he was not. It was written by other songwriters. Nevertheless, my point remains about the hopefulness of that song and the positive vibe of that song in the face of extraordinary social turmoil. But I did want to punch in and correct that one thing before I got going. Okay, so this is a rant that I've wanted to do for a while now, and I'm talking about like probably a couple of years now, and that is about trap music. I live in Atlanta, or the Atlanta area, which is the birth canal for trap music. And if you live in Atlanta now, trap is the only thing that exists. There is virtually no market for anything else. In fact, I won't even say virtually. There is no market for anything else. The other genres are all other genres of music in this town are basically supported. They are supported socially by small groups of small groups of enthusiasts, and this includes just general rock music. They are supported by small groups of enthusiasts on a social level, but there is certainly no economic there's no economic foundation for any of those genres. There is no money to be made in any genre of music in Atlanta except for trap. And it really, really burns me because you've all seen, or most of you have probably seen the movie Whiplash. Okay, the little kid on the drums in Whiplash, that was me on guitar. And I didn't put myself through hell so that real, actual music could be replaced with trap music. And I know it sounds conceited to say, oh, I don't like the genre, so it's not really music. No, exclusive to trap. I'm saying this exclusive to trap music. Trap music lacks all of the foundational premises of music. Melody, none. Harmony, none. Rhythm, vocal rhythm, barely any. Trap artists make no attempt to stay on the beat. They drift wildly off the beat, and not in some ear candy fashion that causes a greater appreciation of what's happening. It's not like they are leading the beat or trying to play behind the beat or do something that's actually going to create a groove. No, it's just objectively drifting off the beat. And in any other genre of music, if the singer was not on the beat, like vocalists are not on the beat in trap music, you would say, this person is not on the beat. You would criticize them for that. In trap music, you're expected to just indulge the failure to stay on the beat. And to me, rap music that is not, where the vocalist is not on the beat, is not rap music. It's talking. And this is what's so aggravating because, this is not an anti-rap thing at all. There is rap that I love, rap that is phenomenal. And what's funny is one of my favorite current car jams right now, one of my favorite songs to listen to in the car is Miami by Will Smith. And I picked that up because recently I just got HBO Max and I started binge watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which took me back to my childhood, and it also took me back to a time when rap was good. And the thing is, there are musical conventions inherent to good rap music that make it a musical experience. Go listen to Will Smith. Go listen to Run DMC. Go listen to classic rappers who were actually, LL Cool J is a favorite of mine, Radio, that album. Go listen to rappers that were actually on the beat, actually interacting with the beat, actually creating very cool, very interesting polymeter with what they were doing. And this is something that perpetuated even up into the modern day. There are incredible rappers like Twista and Tech9 that were doing really, really cool technical stuff with their raps, and it was fascinating. And then trap came along. And suddenly suddenly mumble rap is now a subgenre. Suddenly we are just accepting a complete absence of vocal presence and rhythmic continuity in this. I mean, there's a 21 Savage song that goes something like, it's like, uh, um, how many, it's I think it's called A Lot, and the hook is like, how many inwards I shot, a lot, how many this I done, a lot, how many this, a lot, just how many blah, a lot, blah 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 blah, a lot, blah 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 blah. There is not even a strong percussive emphasis on the beat. It's just drifting vaguely in the same room as the beat. And I hate to sound like a snob, but I do know the difference between when somebody is manipulating the beat to create a polyrhythmic effect and when they're off the beat completely. And this is so aggravating because it's become the dominant form of rap music, and it's become the dominant form of music. And there is such a wealth of auditory experience out there that is getting completely ignored for this non-musical garbage. And don't get me wrong, there are recording artists out there that I love that do non-musical ambient stuff. Like, there's a group I discovered recently. It's more of a one-person project with guest musicians, but there's a group I love that I discovered recently called None with Wound, N-U-N with Wound. And they have moments that are very musical and moments that are abstract noise. And the thing is, if I point to the moments that are abstract noise and say, that's abstract noise, nobody is going to come back at me and say, no, you just don't get it. You're out of touch. You're too old. You haven't figured it out. And, I'm going to be 37 in 2 weeks. And up until about 2018, there was tons of modern music, or contemporary pop music I loved. I absolutely loved Bruno Mars' 24 Karat Magic. I absolutely loved the last 2 Gorillaz albums. And all the Gorillaz albums, really. And there was plenty of pop music that I was loving. I didn't suddenly become too old to appreciate what's going on in the world in the last 2 years. No, this genre of musically has now. So far I've only talked about the lack of rhythmic intent from the performers themselves. Let's talk about what's going on behind that. Now, there's no melody, and the thing is, we have this thing that I don't know what you call it. I refer to it as ghetto yodeling, where they get a woman to come in and do this kind of ooh thing in the background and auto-tune that so it's vaguely in the so it's in the same key as the backing track and everything. That's not the construction of a melody. Vaguely hitting a couple of notes, I swear I've heard things where it's not even an attempt at a melody, it's just a woman making a single sound in the background. This is not the construction of a melody. It has no tonic dominant tonic resolution, no tritonal resolution, nothing that constitutes an actual melody. And you don't need to know music theory, by the way, to use those principles and construct an actual melody. Put it this way. You don't need to know what this is called in order to draw with it. That's the thing. You can pick up the principles of music theory naturally. All of the great blues musicians, John Lee Hooker and Muddy Waters and B.B. King and all of these cats picked this shit up totally by ear. None of them had musical training. So no, I'm not making that kind of elitist statement at all. I'm saying that there are principles that you have to understand. It's just like if you want your words to be understood clearly, you have to understand some modicum of sentence structure. Otherwise, people, naturally or through education, otherwise people aren't going to be able to follow you. And that's what's happening here. So let's look at the rest of it. What is the constant beat behind trap music? So the same goddamn thing over and over again, just a halftime groove with that little trill in the hi-hat, and over again, and it's all in halftime. And the thing is, the vocal patterns that they're doing don't connect with a halftime groove. Beats are beats that the percussion the percussion section, whether it's a drum kit or hand percussion or what have you, the beats that are laid out by a rhythm section are based on emphasizing the rhythmic underpinnings of the actual music. You start with a vocal melody and a vocal phrase, and you build everything around that. Trap music presupposes that this one beat is going to work for every single thing, and it might as well, because the artists are not making any attempt to actually stay on the beat. But the point being, there's nothing wrong with that beat in and of itself. The problem is that it's just thrown in there apropos of nothing. There is no actual chordal construction or melodic construction or groove of any kind that is implied by the larger whole of the music that beat is meant to accent and accentuate. It just drones on in the background apropos of nothing. And then you throw some samples on top of that, and yeah, you probably can find some great samples in trap music, but guess what? Those samples were provided to you by other people in other genres that were actually doing something of musical value. What the trap artists themselves is actually creating is meaningless. And if you want to know how meaningless it is, I can prove it to you. What are the foundational recordings of this genre? You can't point to them because they don't exist. Where is Purple Rain? Where is Thriller? Where is Songs in the Key of Life? Where is Kind of Blue? Where is Bitches Brew? Where is Birth of the Cool? Where is Epitaph? You can't find these recordings in trap music because they're not there. It is completely homogeneous, generic music. There's a reason it's the only genre of music that is sold in slimline jewel cases at the checkout counters of gas stations. And as a musician in the Atlanta area, as a professional musician in the Atlanta area, I know how all of this shit got started. It got started by taking advantage of a certain amount of ignorance within black youth culture, specifically the youth. I mean, you don't see people in their 40s and 50s doing trap, or at least launching trap careers. It is a genre of the youth, and they're taking advantage of a certain amount of ignorance of youth culture, which is, we now live in a world where there is no more money to be had at the executive level in the music industry. File sharing and everything that goes with it has completely decimated the old model of the music industry. And because the old model of the music industry was based on screwing the artist, the new model of the music industry is also based on screwing the artist. The difference being, instead of screwing the artist after they're successful, they screw the artist before they're ever successful. See, what happens is you have in the Atlanta music scene, these predatory assholes that masquerade as producers, and what they do is they sell a sort of rock star fantasy trip to young black kids that pony up the money to go into the studio and live like royalty for a day, and go in with stars in their eyes, and they take advantage of this crap, and they sell them a package. They sell them a package deal. It's just a rock star fantasy weekend, and that is where these producers are making their money now, because there's no money in album sales anymore, and there's no money in album sales, and so that is what they're selling. And this is, by the way, this is not a wild conspiracy theory. This is the fact. This has been written about. You can go look it up. The way that this particular genre of music took off was through a backdoor payola scam, which was, there's a strip club here in Atlanta called Magic City. These so-called producers would go down to Magic City and get their music played in that strip club, which is considered the height of cool for black ghetto culture. And what happens is, you can't pay the DJ. That would be payola. But you can pay the stripper however much money you want. So they go down there, they pay the strippers to play their songs, and that's how these songs have become popular. That is how they've gotten airplay. It is the biggest scam. It is complete crap, and it is based on milking young people's ignorance. That is what this genre is predicated on. and it is not there. There is no soul in this. It is just a complete. I mean, it's the difference between if musical genres were liquids, jazz would be like a fine red wine, and trap music would be tap water. The only difference is that tap water can be good for you if it's produced correctly. And it is completely dismissible, empty music. And let's talk about the lyrics. I'm going to use an example now. I'm sure you have out there, you who are disagreeing with me, I'm sure you have plenty of examples of lyrics you like, but I'm going to use this one. I pulled up a playlist on iTunes of trap music, and this was the first one that was in English on the playlist. So it's "We Paid" by Lil Baby and 42 Doug off the album My Turn. Here's the lyrics. Can't be fucked with. I 4 pockets, huh? Section 8 just straight cooked this motherfucker up. 'Fore I go broke like Jock. Fuck with all that dog like Vic roof. Not that rock, that pit. Palm angels down to my sock. Can't hold my Glock. Reason I don't really like that shit. Inward I don't. Young turnt inward. Can't wife no bitch at all. Excuse my French. Don't like no bitch. Nope. Limo tinted, all 5 cars. Yeah, I had it hard. Seen my bitch broke bad. I ain't had a heart. Skirt, yeah, that's us. 2-tone AP, yeah, I'm bust. Got the head from her. I ain't even wanna fuck her. Fuck her, why? Slut by, fuck on. Nothing on me from Sax, everything revive. Old inward tellin' on bro should have died. No, he ain't. Kill him, dog. He ain't even try. Still bet my last shootin' dice in the hood. Take who chain? Nah, bitch, not Doug's. Probably in something fast with a Glock in the hood. Courtside tickets, spillin' walk in the wood. That is a fucking word salad. The thing is, I can go listen to, one of the best rap albums in my mind is Notorious B.I.G. Life After Death. You listen to the lyrics in that, he is using ghetto slang out the wazoo, but you can, even if you don't know what that slang is, you can still suss out the meaning without even any really any consideration. It's or contemplation. It's very obvious what he means, even if you don't know the lyrics. It's like if somebody says something is fly, to pick a slang word. If somebody says something's fly, you can determine by the context that they mean cool. Or good, or positive, interesting. I mean, the context explains what is being implied by the slang words. By contrast, this is drivel. This is random. What was he talking about? There were vague allusions to shooting people, or shooting black people, wearing fine clothes, and having meaningless sex with women you despise. And those 3 topics are literally form the entirety of the lyrical content of trap music and a lot of rap music in general. And that's a real problem, because you know what? It's fucking racism. And I mean actual racism, actual white people hating black people racism. And I am sick to death of seeing black people play into this, because it is an example of white people manipulating black culture to keep black people down. Stop and think about the original gangster rap that came out. Think about what was being said by NWA, what was being said by Public Enemy. Those guys were not saying that they loved being in the hood. They were not saying that they reveled in the fact, they were not reveling in being uneducated. They were not reveling in living in crime-ridden streets. They were not reveling in having these just horribly manipulative relationships with women. They were not reveling in these things. What they were trying to say was, we're mad as hell and we're not going to take this anymore. We're tired of living like this. We're tired of being abused by the police. We're tired of not being able to move forward in society. We're tired of not being able to make any money. We're tired of being portrayed as minstrel dancers and everything else by the white establishment. Every message that the supposedly woke BLM crowd is now trying to rally behind, in the same breath, they are turning around and championing this trap music, which let me tell you what happened. NWA and Public Enemy and all those guys came out, and I'm old enough to remember this shit. They came out, and white people were terrified. And I mean, this was, not only did they come out, but the Rodney King riots were happening at the exact same time. O.J. Simpson was on trial, and people were, which was considered, even as the trial was going on, it was considered a cornerstone change in the dialogue around race relations. All of this upheaval was happening, and this music had people scared. And you know what happened? You know how we suddenly became okay with it? Because the music industry absorbed it. They took the realness of NWA and the realness of Public Enemy and the realness of the authenticity, I should say, of these gangster rappers that were trying to say, this is what my life is. This, it went from Coolio rapping about gangsta's paradise and decrying the horrible state of his community. It went from that to a prepackaged persona put out by white record executives who wanted to nullify how scared they were by this new genre of music, and they put out this asinine bastard recreation of black culture where you had black guys rapping in front of fried chicken restaurants and reveling in the fact that they were street thugs, reveling in the fact that they were street drug dealers, reveling in the fact that they were street pimps, reveling in the fact that their existence was reduced to a minstrel show parody of what dignified life for any human being should be. They were portrayed as reveling in that. Those artists started coming out, and that's what trap music is. And the strongest chains are the chains you don't know you're wearing. And these black artists that are putting out this trap music, that acting like this is the height of what they have to aspire to, are only hurting themselves and only hurting the community that they purport to care about. We live in this ultra PC culture where people are, the number one thing. What is the number one thing right now? Representation. We want better representation of women. We want better representation of blacks. We want better representation of Hispanics, Asians, transsexuals, homosexuals, this, that, we want better representation of everybody. We want to see people being portrayed as real and complex people, but also worthwhile, better people. That's the big thing right now. Representation. And the same people who are pushing for this, who want better representation of everybody in the media, are championing this trap music that does nothing but glorify ghetto gangster culture and bottom feeder behavior and all that. And yes, I know that there are people that actually do have to live like that. And I would rather find solutions to help those people rather than wallow in a fake, phony glorification of something that does not need to be glorified. The lifestyle that is glorified in trap music is the black equivalent of those redneck mutants in the movie Deliverance. Yes, there are people that are unfortunate enough to have to live at that level. Yes, we should help them. Yes, we should, but we should want people to aspire to something better. Where, Louis Armstrong lived in a world of prejudice and bigotry and racism that modern day Americans cannot even fathom. And yet, the song he is best known for writing is What a Wonderful World. That is his signature song. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. This beautiful, warm, passionate affirmation of life. Because Louis understood that life is, life and the joy of being alive is that is something that is transcendental. It is not something that it is not something that is the sole province of the rich. It is something that we all must learn to appreciate, the simple joy of being alive. That is not celebrated anywhere in trap music. There is no I was listening to Foreigner the other day, and it was I Want to Know What Love Is. And I was thinking, we don't have these songs anymore. And the songs that we listen to, and obviously we choose what songs we listen to, but why do we listen to these songs? We listen to them to make them the soundtrack of our thoughts and the soundtrack of our world, and we use these songs to shape how we want to view the world. I'm not somebody who says that, oh, you become what you listen to, and if you only listen to bad stuff. No, that's not it. I'm talking about for your sake, for your personal feeling. Why don't you want to perceive the world in a better way? Why are you listening to the people who are telling you that you can't perceive the world in a better way? To every kid in the ghetto who listens to trap music, looks out at the harsh reality of their existence and says, "This describes what I'm experiencing," I challenge you to go put on What a Wonderful World and listen to that and let that describe what you're experiencing. Because we have had so many people telling black youth for so long that happiness and joy and passion and beauty and all of these things are the province of white people, and that they're betraying black culture or betraying some standard of blackness if they enjoy these things. And that is what trap music is doing. That when you are listening to trap music, you are confessing that that's as high as you aspire. That that's the sum total of your experience. Because that is the nonsense culture that it's describing. Literally, that stanza that I just read described all of it. Bitchy, insufferable women, killing black people, and wearing flashy hip-hop designer clothes. That's it. How about, I thought this is slightly off topic, but it relates. I've been doing a deconstruction of the book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, and at one point she talks about how we listen to, we read black authors during Black History Month and then we forget about them and that's it. Well, you know what, Robin, and to everybody else, the reason that happens is because Black History Month is the month that we set aside as Americans to study the brutal, difficult history of the black experience in this country. And the racism is in people like Robin DiAngelo assuming that those black authors that we read during that time, like Ralph Ellison and Zora Neale Hurston and everybody, the black writers that whose writing points towards the history of oppression, which, by the way, is a valid topic to talk about. I'm not denying that at all, or I'm not decrying that at all. It's absolutely something we should address. I'm not criticizing those authors at all, but those authors who point to the dark, bleak reality of the black experience, we observe them during that time so that we set aside that time. And yeah, we put those authors back on the shelf a lot of the time. But what about Samuel R. Delany and Octavia Butler and Walter Mosley? Those authors don't even get mentioned by the woke progressives, because that doesn't fuel the messages of those authors. Don't fuel your message about black oppression being black street culture being the height of their existence. So those authors don't even get looked at. And that's what burns me, is the bleakness and the emptiness of it, and knowing the marketing history that got it to this point. So you have something that is devoid of musicality, something that is devoid of hope. And the best defense that I've ever gotten, no one has ever, by the way, I'm making this video after having an argument with a friend of mine who is a fellow Berkeley alum that appreciates trap music, and I love the guy, don't get me wrong, he's a great dude, but the only thing he could do to defend trap music was to say, oh, well, I let go of that elitist attitude that I learned at Berkeley. Look, when we were at Berkeley, when you were learning, there was a rule that went through every department, every compositional class, every harmony class, every theory class. When you had to write something, you could never, ever defend what you did by saying, I wrote that because I thought it sounded cool. Now, at the end of the day, because I thought it sounded cool is the only reason to do anything in music. But the point of that was, you had to be able to articulate why something worked. You had to be able to articulate why. I won't give you a full theory lesson now, but there is a reason why, if you go from C major to G major and back to C, it gives you a sense of auditory completeness, a sense of having gone through a full progression. There's a reason why if you go from the C chord to the F chord to the G chord, back to the F chord to the C, that's called building anticipation and delayed resolution. There's a reason that all of these concepts that we hear in music are there, and they are gone in trap music. Now, they're not gone in other kinds of rap music, because the lyrical structure of actual rap music that follows a beat also follows a lyrical structure that implies a chordal turnaround. It implies a sense of resolution in the music, and therefore you get a musical experience out of it, even though you are not, put it this way, think of it this way. Look at the lyrics to "We Will Rock You" by Queen. Buddy, you're a young man, hard man, fighting in the streets, gonna take on the world someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place. So there's a sense of melodic resolution, turnaround there. Now, if I just say those lyrics, buddy, you're a young man, hard man, fighting in the street, gonna take on the world someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, somebody better put you back into your place. If I do that, that turnaround, the structure of those lyrics still implied melodic content. And I know I got off beat on the last of those phrases, but I'm torqued right now. Sorry. Hey, me again. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight if I don't get this right. Buddy, you're a young man, hard man, fighting in the street, gonna take on the world someday. You got mud on your face, big disgrace, somebody better put you back into your place. There we go. Anyway, but the point being, if the melodic content is still implied in the structuring, whereas saying how many N-words I shot, a lot. There's a little bit of a melodic contour to shot a lot, but hardly any. And he doesn't really even connect it to the beat. It just sort of drifts. And that is why this genre of music just burns me. It eternally burns me, because it's just like the art world. The visual art world has dealt with this problem for decades now, where you have some asshole comes in with a canvas that he has put one stroke of paint on and says, this is a brilliant masterpiece, and everybody in the room says, oh, yes, very good, no. And then the one person who dares to say the emperor has no clothes, dares to say that's complete crap. It's just one stroke of paint on a canvas. It means nothing. It required no skill. It says nothing. It means nothing. It has no value whatsoever. Then everyone else in the room turns around and says, yes, but clearly you don't understand what's going on here. This is brilliant work, and you don't. And it's no, that abstract modern art. It's a shared group hallucination. It's a room full of pretentious assholes pretending that something has value when it doesn't. But because I genuinely think because music criticism is scared of being labeled as racist, we all sit around and act like there's melodic or musical content to trap music that is not there at all. Again, the emperor has no clothes. If all you're doing is mumbling and not trying to stay on the beat, you're not rapping. And if the melodic content, the musical content of your song is based on extracting a sample of musical content from somebody else's song, then you haven't done anything. You know, as Henry Rollins put it, you're not a musician, you're a record player. And you know, there's a classical music channel that has a video on YouTube called The Death of Melody. And they are so right. They are so fucking right. It is absolutely the death of melody. You know, we have forgotten, I mean, God. Go listen to Sarah Vaughan. The next time you feel like listening to Nicki Minaj, go listen to Sarah Vaughan. If you want it, that's, you know, the other day, I was listening to one of the records that I've really, like, retro albums, excuse me, one of the retro albums that I have really fallen in love with is, it's not retro, it's just an older record, but Private Dancer by Tina Turner. Love that album. And I listened to that and I think, that was just pop music. I mean, that was literally just generated to be a good pop album. And it is a towering artistic achievement over everything that's on the radio now. I mean, the most recent new album I really liked, I really loved Chromatica by Lady Gaga. But she is, you know, an artist that started decades ago in an era of actual melody. And it is depressing. It is truly depressing because the effect of trap, the popularity of trap music has pushed everything else out to the margins. And everything that you hear now is just a loud thumping noise, some ambient chordal sound in the background, and somebody mumbling and moaning. And it really bugs me. It doesn't just bug me. It contributes to my depression. I have very serious chronic depression, and it contributes to that. It really does. Because it literally, the banality and the emptiness of this sound is, I think, reflected in the lack of vibrancy that we see in culture in general now. It's had wide-reaching effects. You know, I saw that awful Blade Runner 2049 movie, the sequel, Blade Runner sequel. I watched that, and the whole soundtrack was just bwom, like, let's change the scene, you know, let's go to a different scene, bwom. There's French horns going bwom, and that's it. Look at Vangelis's original score for the original Blade Runner. And, you know, the extraordinary melodies, most of which he was improvising. That's what's incredible. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. But my God, I just needed to. I just needed to take a vocal diuretic on the topic of trap music. It is the sound of nothingness. It is the sound of the human soul dying of a virus more insidious than AIDS. Have a nice day.